I want you to kind of follow along in your on the slides as we go through chapter 14, consultation, collaboration, and encouraging parent involvement. I kind of wanted to go through this with you so that you don't feel as if you don't understand or the reading may be a bit laborious. So I thought I'd just spend a few times just kind of briefly cover chapter 14, and then you can follow up with reading. But we're going to talk about looking at the school counselor in the role of being a consultant for the most part, and how school counselors can get parents involved, because we find that there is a positive correlation between parents' involvement and student achievement. As parents' involvement increase, the more parents are involved, there is a direct relationship between parents being involved, the more they're involved, and an increase in students' achievement and how well students do in the school. So as parents become more involved, student achievement also experience a growth simultaneously. So there is a direct correlation, and hence the reason for parents' involvement always being one of the goals, one of the annual goals of the school. Almost every single year, a school would put as a part of their annual goal is to see an increase in some level of parents' involvement in the school because of that positive relationship. So let's switch gears to a school counselor in the role of being a consultant. We've looked at the Ask a National model, and we're continuing to go through that as we talked about the different roles and responsibilities of the school counselor. And if you were to look at the model, when we talked about what those roles are, when we looked around the edges of the model, where the school counselor is in the role of being an advocate. Advocacy is very, very important. The school counselor in the role of leadership can't be a leader if you do not want to have an effective comprehensive developmental school counseling program. So it calls for the school counselors to definitely take on a leadership role. And then there's also teaming and collaboration. You can't do it alone. If you want your comprehensive school counseling program to be effective, you have to know how to be a part of a team, and then also how to collaborate with other individuals in the schools, as well as other professionals outside of the school and community, parents, as well as community members or community partners. So that teaming and collaboration is very important. And that's where the consultation comes into play. Hence the topic, consultation, collaboration, and encouraging parent involvement. So as school counselors, you are definitely important resources for the school teacher. Teachers rely on you. They look to you. Remember, I've always said that anytime there's a crisis that happens in the school, if there is a crisis that happens, school counselors are one of the first educators who are called on to be a part of the crisis team, because you've been trained to handle the unexpected. And so teachers look to you, administrators look to you as important resources for what they do. And so teachers may be experiencing problems in the classrooms. They're going to look to you, especially if they have tried multiple times to implement instructions as well as discipline, and it's still not happening. They're going to look to you for some assistance, for some guidance. And this is where your part will come in as a consultant. Family, parents, family members also going to seek you out as a school counselor when it comes to discussing or looking at what they consider to be, or what they're hoping to be, normal development or expected behavior. When those normal developments or expected behavior seem to not be happening, in the times that they expect. That is, something seems to be a little bit off, abnormal, or the behaviors is a little bit out of the ordinary. They're going to look to you as a resource. And so, hence, again, comes in the role of being a consultant or consultation. There are actually models out there in terms of how a school counselor performs in the role of being a consultant. Through consultation, school counselors can assist more students by working directly with individuals. That includes teachers, with parents, administrators, professionals that students are involved with outside of the school, such as coaches, even though coaches can be in the school as well, mental health professionals outside of the school, medical professionals outside of the school. School counselors can serve in that role by working directly with these individuals who have frequent contact with students. And there are three models that they can use. There are three different types that I want to share with you. The three different types of consultation models that's discussed within your textbook that Irfa talks about, that he presents in his textbook, that I want you to be aware of. The first is the triadic dependent model. The second is the collaborative dependent model. And thirdly, the collaborative interdependent model. So you have the triadic dependent, collaborative dependent, and the collaborative independent models of supervision. These models are distinguished by the type of interaction that occurs between the consultant, that's you, and the person or persons seeking the help of the consultant, or seeking your help in the role of being the consultant. So when we talk about the triadic dependent model, you can have either the school counselor can choose to take an indirect approach in working with the consultee, a direct approach, or they may choose to go mixed approach. What do I mean by indirect approach? In the indirect approach, the consultant, that is the school counselor, provides services indirectly to the client, which is the student, by working with the consultee, who may be a teacher or an administrator. So if an administrator comes to you and say, this student is just seems every week they're getting some type of discipline referral. I need help. What else can you provide to Miss So-and-so in third grade to help her student, this particular student? So you, with an indirect, using a triadic dependent model in the indirect approach, then what you would then do is you would either talk directly to the administrator who's asked for your help, or you can go directly to the school teacher, and you would provide them with different skills, different types of activities that they may want to use, or they need to try, that you would suggest they try with the student who is the client. But the consultee is then the administrator or the teacher who's come to you to ask for help about the student. Yes, you're providing services directly to the student, but you are providing that information to the consultee. In your role as a consultant, you're providing that to the consultee, the teacher or the administrator, for the benefit of the client or the benefit of your student. So that's the triadic dependent model using an indirect approach. Using a direct approach, you will then, the school, again, the principal will come to you, we're at a bit's end, we don't know what to do, or the teacher, I don't know what else to do. So you would say, here's some things that I have done in the past that I know that has worked with me, but have the student come to me, and I'm going to work directly with the student, but I'm going to still give you the tools that you need. So they're consulting you, the teacher or the administrator is consulting you, but you take a direct approach where you meet with the student and you provide the counseling service directly. But at the same time, you're providing information to the teacher as well as the principal that they can use in your role as a consultant. And then the third is the mixed approach. And this combines the indirect as well as direct approach. So an example of doing that would be the counselor is going to consult with teachers or family members in an indirect service to the students to tell what happened in the first example I provided. And then at the same time, also be providing one-on-one counseling with the students, which is directly to the students. So that's a mixed approach where you're using indirect by giving information, but you're still meeting with the student direct. So that's the triadic dependent model. In this model, the consultant is viewed as the expert. They're looking to you because you have the answer. So you're the expert. And the consultee is dependent upon you, the consultant's advice, and your recommendation. So triadic dependent. Triadic meaning three-part. You, in the role of the consultant as a school counselor. You have the consultee, which is the teacher or the administrator, and the client or student, which is the student. So triadic dependent, where they're dependent upon you as the expert to provide the advice and recommendation. So the consultant works through the consultee to bring about change for the client. And that's the key with the triadic dependent, that the consultant, you in your role as a school counselor, works through the consultee, teacher, or administrator to bring about change. The immediate recipient of this model is always the consultee, that is the teacher, the administrator. The immediate goal of this model is to increase the skills and knowledge of the consultee, the teacher, administrator, and implement an intervention plan to achieve change for the client or for the student. So you're providing the information. Who receives that immediately is the consultee, but the goal is to see change in the student, in the client. School counselors who help teachers and family members acquire the skills necessary to implement a behavior management plan use this type of consultation model. The next model is the collaborative dependent model. Here, the consultee, why don't we just stick with the consultee being a teacher or a parent? The consultee continues to depend upon the consultant, the school counselor, in problem solving, in terms of being an expertise in problem solving, in having the necessary knowledge or the expert knowledge of normal and abnormal behavior or development, and also in having the expert skills for affecting change, for seeing change in the client or the student, as well as seeing change systemically. So that is in the entire school. The consultant and the consultee creates a partnership. They work together, even though they see the consultant is viewed, you as a consultant is viewed as an expert, seem to have all the necessary knowledge, the advice needed, but it's a partnership agreement as opposed to the triadic dependent where the consultee is totally dependent on the consultant to provide them with all the information. In the collaborative dependent, there's a partnership, but at the same time, the consultee is still dependent on the expert knowledge of the consultant. However, the consultant and consultee establish mutual goals, and that's where the partnership comes into play. They establish mutual goals and objectives for the client or the student, and then they both develop an intervention plan. In other words, the intervention plan for seeing change in the student is one that's done in partnership with each other. So the consultee is responsible for implementing the intervention plan. The consultee is definitely responsible for the intervention plan. The collaborative dependent consultation relationship may focus on help for a specific student. That is, it becomes client or student focused consultation. It may focus on help for the consultee, that is the teacher or the administrator, and that becomes a consultee focused consultation. Or it may focus on the organization, that is, it becomes an organizational context or system focused consultation. So someone may come, someone within the school, could be the teacher, could be the administrator, would come to the school counselor as a consultant and want to engage or be involved in a collaborative dependent way. And so this as a school counselor, you would need to find out who's the focus. So the focus may be on specific help for the client, or not necessarily specific help for the client, specific help for the consultee, or specific help for the organization or the school. So a collaborative dependent may have one of three focus. The previous consultation models, in terms of collaborative dependent or triadic dependent, is really helpful when seeking change for an individual student, for one student, an individual client, or seeking help for a family, just one family, or a single organizational system, the school, that's related to normal developmental issues and normal developmental problems. However, the third model of consultation, the collaborative interdependent model, this is the model or the approach that you would use when problems are more complex. You need to use the collaborative interdependent model. That model has been found to be most useful when the problems are more complex in working through. In this model, the collaborative interdependent, a group of people, that is, individuals with diverse expertise in different areas, they come together as one to generate creative solutions to mutually agreed upon goals. So they come together to mutually define problems, looking for solutions to define problems. Family members, educators, school counselors, youth, members of the broader community all contribute in the interdependent model as equal participants. It is a partnership, but it's not just between you as a consultant with one person, a consultee, but you with a number of group members and that have different or diverse expertise or considered to be experts in certain areas, including students, can be a part of the interdependent model as well, the collaborative interdependent model. This model does not presume that any single person has all the knowledge, sufficient knowledge or information to understand the problem and develop and implement solutions, but that equally coming together, the issues, the problem can be solved. Each person in the group is interdependent upon the expertise of the other group members in formulating and executing problem-solving plan. Everyone works together as a team. Everyone works as a team. Some of the features of a collaborative style of interaction is important for you to know that in order to work collaboratively with others, Collaboration is voluntary. Collaboration is parity. That is, each participant has an equal voice. Collaboration depends upon shared responsibility for decision making. Collaboration is based on mutual goals and a shared accountability for outcomes. Not all just based on how one person performed. Got to all agree. So it's a shared accountability for the outcomes. The commitment is critical. There has to be commitment. All participants must agree on what the team is to accomplish in the collaborative interdependent model. All participants have to agree. Individuals who collaborate share their resources without dictating how the resources are to be used. So again, it's a team effort in the collaborative interdependent model. Even though you bring your expertise, your knowledge to the table, to the group, you don't dictate how those are to be used. You depend on others as a team. So a shared responsibility, a team effort in determining how and when the resources are to be used. Those are the three types: triadic dependent, collaborative dependent, and collaborative interdependent. The next, in understanding the school counselor in the role of being a consultant, is that consultation does have a process. Just like counseling has a process, consultation has a process. So the next part of this lecture is going to focus on the consultation process. Effective consultation in a school setting requires skills in problem solving. That seems like, yeah, that makes sense. So got to have skills in problem solving and also an ability to form relationships that are not based on dictatorship, but on collaboration, working together, teaming and That's why teaming and collaboration go together. So an ability to perform collaborative relationships with others who are considered to be experts in their areas. That includes family members, even students. Some students can be experts in what's really going on because they can tell you exactly what's going on with them. There is a 6-step system-based process model for school consultation. 6 steps that's involved. All right, and those 6 steps include, first, entering the system. You have to determine how you're going to enter this collaborative relationship. Then joining the system or joining the relationship, initiating problem solving, it includes the process as well, framing the change, evaluating the change, and then facilitating the change. All of these are stressed in your textbook that I'm not going to spend a lot of time going over, but know that there is a 6-step approach beginning from how you enter the relationship, the collaborative relationship, all the way to how you facilitate that change so that you can end the relationship. So how do you start and then how do you end the relationship? And there's a process involves 6 steps. So as school counselors in school consultation collaboration, understand school counselors do not work with students that are all alike. So there is definitely diversity within the school. So just like you have to be mindful of multicultural approaches in counseling to develop and use those multicultural counseling skills, understand that there's also multicultural consultation. So that's key. And multicultural consultation, as defined, says it's a culturally sensitive, indirect service in which the consultant, school counselor, adjusts the consultation services to address the needs and cultural values of the consultee, that is the teacher, the administrator, or the parent, the client, that is the students, or both. Multiculturally sensitive, that is you tune in that there may be some differences based on different values, different ethnicity groups in terms of what is considered to be important to them. So there may be some difference. So requires you be multiculturally sensitive. Indirect service in which you as a consultant adjust your approach, that is what you're providing to them in terms of a consultation services that's going to address the needs and those cultural values of the consultee, the student, or both. Multicultural consultation. So that's consultation. Now, how do we involve parents? Remember at the beginning I talked about as parental involvement goes up, so the student achievement. That's why it's key for you to understand the role of the school counselor in assisting or involving parents in implementing as well as evaluating your comprehensive developmental school counseling program. How do you involve parents? So, like I said, there is a direct correlation. Students whose parents are involved in and supportive of their educational journey achieve higher levels of performance and are better adjusted socially and emotionally. The research shows us that. That's a direct correlation. So what are some types of ways as a school counselor that parents can be involved, that you can involve parents? By offering parent education workshops, sometimes even by making a visit to the home. If the parent can't get to you, you need to get to the parents, because that child goes home to the parent. Your student goes home to the parents every night, every day. So having the parents involved is going to be key to seeing change in students. So, and sometimes you want to address the same issue with all your parents. Instead of going individually, then do a workshop. Parent education workshop. You got to communicate with parents. You can choose to have yearly conferences like teachers do, or just send home something every day with students or every week, or have a website where you provide parents with tips in any area that's related to your students' educational growth and development. Have parents volunteer to come in and assist you. You can provide that as well. Parents involved, you be involved in the PTO. PTO is about parent teacher organization or involvement. So get involved as well. It's important to communicate with parents, both parents and school personnel. Sometimes we set up roadblocks to communication. So it's important for you as a school counselor to make sure that there are no roadblocks to you communicating. School staff must treat parents as partners in education. Got to be seen. Parents have got to be seen as equal partners in the child's education, involving each to maximize the potential of all students. That is, parents as well as the staff. The counselor is often the first school contact that a parent makes and must strive to make parents feel welcome in the school. Many schools offer one-way communication with parents in the form newsletters, flyers, but there needs to be a two-way. So if you send something home to the parents, give an opportunity where they can respond. So that can be phone calls, that can be emails, home visits, conferences. So it's two-way, not you providing everything. So it's important for you to involve parents as much as you possibly can. That's chapter 15, consultation, collaboration, and parental involvement. Thank you.